So the other day, my friends actually asked me a question over the weekend, and they actually asked me the question asking, why does it seem that Sith apprentices are way stronger than Jedi? And when you think about it, it actually is very, very true. I mean, we had Maul come about the woodworks and essentially be able to take out Qui-Gon Jinn and almost take out Obi-Wan. We've seen Asajj Ventress actually kill Jedi and actually give many Jedi Masters a run for their own money. And most recently, with the adaptation of Star Wars Acolyte, we saw Chimera, who was a Sith apprentice, absolutely demolish many Jedi and take them out like they were absolutely nothing. And one of the few answers of this reason why is actually because of their training. The way that Sith are trained is actually very, very brutal. Sith will often try to push for every single last weakness that's within you. They would even take limbs or even try to injure you in very great ways in order to teach you about weakness and learning from it. It was borderline torture that they would put their apprentices through. But through this harsh, very harsh method of training, they would actually gain power much, much faster because they're calling upon the dark side of the Force way, way more. And gaining a deeper and deeper understanding every single last time they went through something like this or some kind of ordeal like this. By causing them physical harm, it forced them to actually become more powerful. It forced the weakness out of their body. The other way that Sith were actually trained way more differently than Jedi is actually that Sith were able to use their full range of emotion. The Sith never downplayed their role of emotion when it comes to training and when it comes to power. The Jedi were taught to actually look away from their emotion and to turn away from it and not embrace it whatsoever, whereas the Sith were actually taught to embrace every single last emotion that they were feeling and have it push them deeper and deeper to a fit of rage. And the angrier they got, the more they called upon the dark side of the Force, and the more they called upon the dark side of the Force, the more power that they gained. Another reason why young Sith were actually seemingly stronger than Jedi is actually because they focused so much more on the combat side of being a Force user. The Jedi would actually have a nice balance between everything that they would have going on, but the Sith were mainly focused on combat and figuring out ways that they can actually manipulate and destroy their enemy. And this is why Sith seem to be way more powerful and way more strong in saber-to-saber combat than comparatively to Jedi. Not many Jedi actually focused on the combat side of what they were doing. In fact, they were encouraged to not really look at their combat side of using the Force and actually just study the Force itself in general. Now for Jedi of the Old Republic, this was actually completely different. They actually had to focus on the combat side because the Sith presence in the galaxy was far more prevalent. And at any moment they could run into a Sith and absolutely get into a battle that would last for days or even a couple hours even. So for the Jedi at this time, they actually had to focus on combat a little bit more. But soon after the Sith presence wasn't as prevalent in the galaxy, they shifted back to what they used to be. Another reason why the Sith were actually way stronger than the Jedi when it comes to combat and when it came to just being overall more powerful as young apprentices is actually the fact that the Sith would fight erratically. The Jedi, especially the Rule of Two era, actually thought that the Sith were going to fight with honor or fight in a way that they would actually understand. In reality, it's the complete opposite. The Sith fought completely differently in order to overwhelm and destroy the Jedi. And this is something that the Jedi were completely not expecting to happen. They expected the Sith to follow the rules of combat, when in reality the Sith didn't really care about rules or anything. All they cared about was destroying you or completely obliterating you or using whatever they could use as an advantage against you. The Sith were all about domination, so they use things like fear. They will emotionally destroy you and they will physically try to overpower you. And this is something that the Jedi actually fell victim to. They actually fell victim to what the Sith were attempting to do to them. Especially the Jedi who were inexperienced in actual combat. Of course, they had the combat experience of fighting and training, but they didn't have the combat experience of actually fighting against another Sith, especially against someone who was trying to kill them. But anyway, that's all we have for today's video. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Do you guys agree with the Sith training methods? I personally think the Sith are very powerful, but I don't necessarily agree with their training methods. May the Force be with you, and have a great rest of your day.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.